Okay, so enough of that. So moving on. This is the thesis under which we're moving right here. Spirituality is the physics we don't yet understand. There's so alhamdulillah, Allah, as recently as the last like 36, 48 hours, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I've said this in all humility, there's no boast, led me to another mind, not my mind, another mind person that is addressing something. And say, oh yeah, this is the answer that I need for this element over here. And so, by the grace of Allah, alhamdulillah, someone again with part of the answer, with part of with the expression of part of the answer. It's like we have it, but sometimes we don't have the expression for it, that vessel, those words, the vocabulary for the concept, the principle, the idea. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send us or bring out from us the language, the carriage, the vehicle for the idea that you intuitively and that you have a feel for, but it's as Iqbal Muhammad Iqbal says, uh, inarticulate feel. It feels like, but you don't have the word, inarticulate feeling. So sometimes the feeling itself will give birth to the word to express what it is that you feel. And sometimes you will hear out there in the environment from somewhere the word or words that that is expressing what I'm feeling, right? So alhamdulillah, so that's a constant occurrence for the seeker, for the asker, for the student, for those who inquire, right? In the name of Allah. So let's just move on with what we have to share today. Uh, so we went the last week. We went through this. This comes from Bernardo Kestra of the Essentia Foundation. I recommend him to you if you're ready for abstraction, right? Watch out for the fish bones, but it is not mainstream. Whatever popcorn talk. So moving on. So we went through it. I'm not going to go all the way through it. Let me just see if I can get away with just speaking to the red letters there, right? Because what this is talking about is how things, from the foundation of the nature of creation, how they come into reality, right? And I know that I just used the term popcorn. The other language that is not knitted more scientifically and logically, etc., moving from that bottom to the top, I'm less trusting of it. And certainly it has to rest well. It has to harmonize well with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has either expressed or implied in the Quran. So trust this. I wouldn't even mention the name Bernardo Kestra to you if I didn't already have the sense. It doesn't mean that when you get to it, that I see what the Imam is saying. You may not say, hey, you might say, what the hell was he thinking about when he's talking about that? Well, if you're that far away from him, then you should know right away. You should turn around. As soon as you get to it and you say, no, I can't mess with that. Well, just go ahead and make that U-turn and check out. It's okay. Because you've been warned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Approach not that about which you have no knowledge. That's the Quran telling you. If you have no knowledge relevant, you ain't got no business messing with it, right? Also, when the wise man spoke to Musa, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, how can you have patience with that about which your understanding is not yet complete? So if you have no knowledge, you have no understanding of the domain, then back out of it, hang out with me, ask me some questions. You can email me, sabilillah@aol.com for clarification. I will, inshallah, reply to you. But I got to move on based on time we have today. So I'm gonna jump on these red letters. If you weren't with us last week, then I say go find the archive. Whatever medium you're reaching us on right now, then in that medium you'll also be able to find the archive for all of this. But let's go. So the expectations and beliefs, right? That's the key. What are your expectations? What are your beliefs, right? What happens is what it is that you're trying to accomplished, it gets filtered. It gets filtered. And what's filtered, that is, you're starting with these possibilities, and what filters it, how far what you aspire to rises, it moves up through and up to and through the levels according to your expectations and beliefs. Wherever you run out of expectation and belief, for as far as that is concerned, then the creative flow of what it is you're trying to bring into existence, it stops right there, because you have not provided the opening for which that thing to move from abstract to concrete. And the way that things move from abstract to concrete, action is definitely involved. There's no magic in the context of this. There is action that's involved, but those actions are coinciding with your level of expectation and belief. If you don't have the expectation and belief, then you won't have the behavior consistent with what you need to do to keep it pushing. I gotta go with that kind of language so you can stay with me. So the possibility, so the fuel, the source of the fuel for our creativity, that is something coming into existence as an original product of ours. The fuel for it is our expectations and belief. We run out of expectation and belief, we run out of fuel, and the process stops, right? So because what happens is everything that we expect and believe and act in accordance with what is true for its law, we'll say more about that as we go, what is true for its law, then it congeals into a particular reality. And that has everything to do with the issue of quantum. We didn't go all the way into it, but as he's pointing out, the process of your quantum physics calls it wave function collapse, right? Just look it up and get some sense of it. The point is, all existence first only exists as possibility. That's all. Possibility and potential. Everything. The universe in its totality. All these phenomena that we see, feel, taste, touch, smell, measure, quantify, etc., they are all manifestations of something that is fundamentally wave and particle at the base. But it has congealed into whatever it is that we're experiencing, because something happened. I have to abbreviate it that way. Something happened to make that automobile come into existence, that chair, that light, that microphone, whatever. It came into by someone filtering their expectation and belief and their scientific understanding of what it takes to bring this thing about. They stayed with it, they planned, they acted, they planned, they acted, they planned, they acted until it congealed into the particular reality that we see. Why? Because they had a belief system that ran from the possibility in their expectation and belief for them to continue to act until the thing was actually in their hands. That's how it works. That's how it works. So he concludes, the reality you experience is a function of your deeply ingrained belief system, right? What is it that you deeply think, that you have no doubt about? Whatever you're talking about, doing something, achieving something, accomplishing something, creating something, how much doubt do you have about it, right? If you have no doubt about it, just keep it going. It's coming. It's on the way. And keep acting in accordance with a plan that's intended to make it come. You keep doing what you're doing, and it's just a matter of time, because we live in space-time. It's just a matter of time before you will have it, right? It will only stop when you stop expecting it and when you stop believing it at that next level, whatever it might be. Because every time you come to a door, then you have to turn the knob, open the door. You have to know the combination, whatever it is you need to know in order to get through that door. It will come by virtue of your expectations and beliefs that are deeply held at that level about that thing. If you don't have that level of expectation and belief at that level about that thing, you're not going any further. That's it. And the thing that removes doubt is knowledge. Of course, Allah is in it all, but knowledge is what removes doubt. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah told us this when he said, thus did we show Abraham the powers and the laws of the heavens and the earth, that he might have yaqeen, that he might have conviction and certitude. So, what gives one conviction and certitude? Knowledge of the powers and the laws of the heavens and the earth. The more of the knowledge of the laws of the powers of the heavens and the earth you have, the more conviction you have, the more expectations, the more beliefs, because you are believing and acting and expecting on the basis of the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, and it is true. It's true. So whatever you're devising or designing or expecting or believing, you got to make sure that that's true to the nature of creation, and that you're not, operating on some kind of illusion. All right. All right. So that's as much we're going to say about that, because we spent last week covering that whole thing. But let's go to something further. Now here's an image that applies to everything that I'm saying. This applies to everything. I don't care. Doctor, lawyer, engine chief, engineer, dentist, entrepreneur, doesn't matter. Athlete, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's everything, right? Let's walk through some of the mapping here, right? In the upper left, it says the game, the hierarchy, the aim, everything. You think of anything right now. It doesn't matter. Helmets. I'm just grabbing something. Helmets, right? Helmets. Okay. A helmet is a thing, right? And that helmet, that wasn't the only helmet that was ever made or that ever existed. That helmet came from some manufacturer. Okay, so that manufacturer is in the helmet game. The manufacturer is in the helmet game. You understand? So each one of these just represent different ways of saying the same thing. So whatever it is that you're involved with, if you're talking about stocks, you're in the stock game, the equities game, doesn't matter. You're in insurance, same thing. You're in manufacturing, same thing. You're in sales, same. It's the game. That's your game. That's your game. So that should be enough. It's like whatever. And so in every game, there is a hierarchy and there is an aim, right? So you can call the hierarchy the game. You can call the aim the game. Whatever the aim is, that's the game. The name of the game is the aim. The name of the game is the aim, right? Whatever. Basketball. Basketball. The name of the game is, quote unquote, in the world is basketball. But what's the aim of the game? What's the aim of the game? The aim of the game, that is the game. Whatever the aim of the game, that's the game. Period. So you can say, "Oh, we're playing basketball." Okay, I'm an alien. I don't know. What do you mean? Right? Well, then you have to be able to tell the one who has no context for it. They'll tell, okay, well, the aim is to X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X. All right, so you got that. So hierarchy game. So I'm saying anything can go in this box. It just doesn't matter. Bamboo chairs. Okay, that should be enough. Whatever comes to your mind, you should see it in the context of a total system of things that is devoted to that. All right. Now, in every game, there's an apex performer, there's a model, there's an archetype, right? So whatever, whatever. Let's stay with basketball. Whatever. So you have people who make basketballs. Right? So you gotta go look. Oh, okay. We watched the Air. We watched the Air, the Michael Jordan quasi biopic, at least one part of it. So it's like, so you had Converse, and you had I forget who the other Adidas, right? Converse, Adidas, and I don't even think Reebok was in the game as of that time. And Nike. And Nike was on the third level, third tier, with only 17% of the market at that time. The big dog was Converse, and the next after that was Adidas. And Adidas was put on the map because of Run DMC and the rest of those kind of folks. So the point is that the apex performer in the tennis shoe game was Converse as of that time. And the issue of it was Converse, and the peak of the game, of the tennis shoe game, was running shoes. Running shoes, right? All right. So that was the game. and Apex Performer was Converse, right? So then the model that you're trying to get with is Converse and Adidas and blah blah blah. So the archetype for it was Converse. Da, da, da. So in every game, taking game the way I just said it, it's like you need to know who's at the top of that game. What game are you in? And that's the thing you need to know. What what game are you? What game are you in? I'll say playing, but it ain't no joke. It's serious. Are you what? Okay, and who's on the top of that? Who's the apex performer in that? So so that's it. So this is what you need to know. You need to know what your game is, and you don't know your game until you know what the aim of your game is. Once you know what that is, now you can go looking for and who's the apex performer. What is the ultimate model for the aim of the game that I'm in? Who and what is the archetype? And I'm saying this to say it can be absolutely anything. You can be a sewing machine maker, whatever. Okay, let's move on. All right, so now this little pyramidal structure here is the the ladder, let's call it, that you have to climb in order to be on top of the game. In order to realize the aim of the game, you have to move from the lower echelons to the upper echelons, right? And this has to do with your state of mind and heart, and particularly your expectations and beliefs, right? you Whenever you start whatever it is that you start at the bottom. You don't start at the top. It just doesn't matter. And everybody that's on the top did not start there. They moved from the bottom to the top. And anybody in the future who moves to the top, they will move to the top from wherever they are, and it all begins at the bottom. Okay, so whatever game you're in, you need to understand, well, where am I in this stratification? Where am I in this progression? Okay, so expectations and beliefs apply on all levels, because remember, the concretization, the realization, the actualization, and I'm going to put big air quotes, the manifestation of what it is that you're trying to do, it's going to filter up according to the level of belief you sustain as you move up. Because if as you move up, you will move up because you acquired and you maintain the expectations and beliefs appropriate for your movement from A to B. And if you're going to move from B to C, you're going to have to sustain the expectations and beliefs and achieve the competencies that need to be achieved at level B. And that will move you filtering based on those beliefs and competencies up to level C, right? And at level C, you have to maintain the expectations and beliefs necessary and acquire the competencies appropriate to level D. If you don't do that, then you're going to stop where we are. In fact, I think that there is a book actually called that. I think it's the Peter Principle. Yeah, I think it's the Peter Principle. This was decades ago. The Peter Principle, and basically the Peter Principle is everyone rises to the level of their own incompetence. Everyone rises to the level of their own incompetence. You're going to keep, I mean, I'm not mad at nobody. I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings, but there's just too many examples right in front of us right now. You heard me talking a lot about basketball. Okay, the Warriors out. So, okay. Warriors out. Because the Warriors didn't have the competency to be able to move to the next level. In terms of whatever the reason may be, that's fine. And they rose to the level. So they were a second round NBA team, a postseason second round NBA team this year. Maybe they were that all year. But the point is, the bus stops here. And so you had to get off the bus. That's that. Okay. Now look at Boston and look at LA. And again, you look at Denver and look at Miami, right? It's like this scale applies to what I'm talking about. because everybody is getting off at the level that their competency and their confidence fails. When their expectation, their beliefs, and their competencies do not match what's required to go to the next level, the bus stops here. This is your stop. Okay? MashaAllah. That's how it goes, right? And so whoever's able to fill out all of these movements in their game, they're going to succeed, right? So everybody starts at the level of unconscious incompetent. Everybody starts at the level where they don't know, and they don't know what they don't know. Some of them don't know that they don't know, but some of them don't know what they don't know. But then you get to if when you succeed in finding out what it is that you don't know and learn a little more about what it is that you don't know, and then you become competent in that you used to be ignorant of, and you maintain the expectation and beliefs, now you're on the next level. The next level is that you're conscious incompetent. What does that mean? It means that, yes, I know a lot, or rather, pardon me, I know more than I knew at level 1, but I have to practice more of whatever it is at this next level. And whatever it is that got me off that first level, I have to practice. And I have to sustain my belief and my expectation that I can achieve and accomplish this at this second level. But I do recognize that I will continue to make mistakes as I practice, because I have not perfected what it is that I just learned about that I didn't know before. So I am deemed to be a conscious incompetent. It's like, I haven't mastered it. I don't fully have it down. I'm still practicing it, but I'm aware when I make a mistake. Man, you didn't do that right. Okay, try it again. You didn't do it. Try it again. Oh, you got it right that time. Oh, yeah, good. Now, when you get it to a point where you are making fewer and fewer mistakes, and you feel this expectation and belief at the level where you can move up to the next level, the movement to the next level will be where you have your habits and your practices have brought you to a point where you rarely miss, you rarely fail, you rarely fail in that particular situation at that particular level. Okay, you move up to the level of conscious competent. Conscious competent is someone who knows, and they've got the habits down to the point where as long as they're paying attention, they got it straight. So they are conscious competent, right? So the conscious incompetent is one who's aware of what they now are not doing properly, that they just learned that they didn't know before. Okay, so let me keep practicing. Now I know when I'm making a mistake, so I'm a conscious incompetent. Okay, yeah, I know, my bad, right? But now, once you get off that level and you're ready to go to the next level, so you are now a conscious competent. That is, you have the competencies, you have the habits, so many of these. I'm staring with the NBA because it's out there for so many of us. People thought, I'm just commentary. It's just commentary. Look, I'm not the special. I got people I can cue you into that they know, but I know enough by listening and my inarticulate feeling about it to be able to say as much as I'm saying. Jonathan Kuminga, right? Jonathan Kuminga, who is a player, 20-year-old player, Warriors. He has some hot spots and some hot shots, and he's got that kind of Ja Morant-ish kind of competency. That's another example to walk through this process. But Jonathan Kuminga, Warriors, I heard one commentator talking about. He said he's got so much skill. An ex-warrior leader was doing this commentary. He has so much skill, so much ability, so much athleticism, so much blah, 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 but he just needs to learn more about this part right here. And he would be really, really effective. And it's the roof, the sky is the limit of his potential, but he's just got to get this part, right? And there's so many throughout the whole game that are like that. The point is that you have to get to the level of conscious competence, right? So conscious competence, or when you're on the level of conscious competence, like, yeah, you have the skills and the ability, but you cannot do it unless you are paying attention. Any moment of inattention, then you're going to make errors. You're going to have more failing. You're not at that next level. You're not at that next level because you cannot do it unconsciously. You have to do it consciously. As long as you have to do it consciously, you still haven't mastered whatever it is that you're trying to move into or move up through. But let's assume a person gets to that level where you have the conscious competence. Conscious competence means that, yeah, you can do it, but you can only do it when you're paying very strict attention. But let's move past that. So when a person finally gets to the point where they don't have to be conscious of it all the time, now they're at the highest level. They're at the peak level of whatever the game is, unconscious competent, Bruce Lee, I always use him as an example for this. Someone who just automatically has the response, the reaction time, knowing the right thing to do under all circumstances. And you have these forces working at a very subconscious level, unconscious level, but therefore at the deepest level that is utilizing the competency that you've developed. So it's just automatic, natural, instantaneous, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when you're at the highest level. You're at the highest level. So that's with everything we're talking about. It doesn't matter. It can be politics, it can be academics, it can be business, it can be cultural art, creativity, etc. All those kinds of things, right? And so once you know what the performance and what the rules are of the game and what is required in order to achieve the aims of the game, and one of the highest ways and best ways to do that is know who the apex performer in your game is. Who is the apex performer? Then you should model yourself after them, right? Because they have demonstrated what it takes to get from the bottom to the top. And the more you master and perform in conformance with what the game requires, then that's how you're going to get to the top of it. That's how you're going to get to the top of it. I think about this Dionne Warwick song, wishing, hoping, and praying. That's not the thing. You have to know what you have to do, and you have to master and conform to what's expected of the game, what the game expects of you, and then you're going to have greater success. Okay, so that's it. Now, as you can see here, it's like this applies to any and everything. This applies. I just put any other here. It just doesn't matter. You could put a label to each one of these boxes. It can be father or mother, businessman, entrepreneur, leader of an organization, whatever, a cook, mathematician, engineer, dentist, lawyer. Just doesn't matter, because you're going to have to do the same thing no matter what it is. And once you understand that that's what you have to do no matter what it is that you're doing, the only thing for you to do is do it. Only that there's nothing that, Allah's will is over everything. But in the scheme of things, Allah doesn't have anything against you. I don't think anybody who's on earth is sitting here talking. I don't think nobody is big enough for Allah to be, I'm mad at you. No, not if you take this time even to be on this program. It's like, hey, Allah ain't mad at you. Okay? So therefore, and the universe ain't mad at you. It's like, it's all yours. So it's like, what do you want? What do you want? And what are you doing to get it? Okay? Let's move on. All right, so this should be even more simplified since I've already used the NBA as a model. In the postseason, right? In the postseason, you have these 4 rounds to get to, right? First round is 4 games, and therein you have to achieve those 4 stages of competency at that level. You have to solve the problem of whoever your opponent is at the first level. That's what you do. The people who move on to the second round are the people who solve the problems of the first round. And your problem is whoever you're faced with. And so you have to move from unconscious, incompetent, conscious, incompetent, conscious, competent, unconscious, competent, so that you can be on the top of whatever that level is, right? And then you have to do the same thing in the semifinals, right? And I'm telling you, and the rest of it is pretty clear. It's just repetition. It's like man, my kufi is off to whoever is the champion. Whoever is the champion, they deserve it. They deserve it because they solved all the problems of every opponent in every series on every level. They deserve it. Now, anybody else, you can get mad, you can get pissed off, you can say, I don't like that. Hey, go on home. Go on somewhere. Because whoever stands on the mountaintop of that and raises that trophy, they earned it. They earned it from elementary school. You understand what I'm saying? That's what's up. Okay, so enough of that. But that applies to everything. So you yourself, where's your mountaintop? Where's your mountaintop? What mountain are you trying to stand on top of? Because the plan, the pattern, the blueprint, the rules, the principles, the paradigm, the algorithm, I just laid it out to you. It's like, go for it. Very important. So this note that came from the reading that we opened this evening with. See, a kind of wave of possibility percolates upward through our cognitive structure, getting filtered according to the expectations and beliefs in higher levels. So if your beliefs and expectations are not such that it opens the way to move to the next level, then that's where you stop. That's where you get off the bus. All right. Run very quickly through this. In the Qur'an, 53:37 through 40, and Allah speaks of Abraham. I'll just read an expression of it. It says, and of Abraham who fulfilled his obligations, namely that no bearer of burdens can bear the burden of another, that man can have nothing but what he strives for, that the fruit of his striving will soon come into sight. Okay, let's abstract from that. We've done this, but abstracted from each one of these verses is, again, the mindset and the behavior that's required to, again, achieve a goal, achieve an aim, to realize something that you may imagine or aspire to. Number one, this verse 53:37 in meaning is telling us, be a person of faith, science, and integrity. Be a person of faith, science, and integrity. Verse 38, in abstract, in essence, is telling us, accept personal responsibility. It's not somebody else's fault. That old white man, Trump, them old Republicans, these folks down here in Georgia, whatever. It's like, hey, accept personal responsibility. The universe don't belong to nobody on earth. The laws of creation belongs to nobody on earth. All those are the levers of power for us in the nature of creation. Nobody can stop us. Okay? Verse 39, abstracted. Set your goal. Set your goal plan. Do you have one? Because the plan, and we covered this, many weeks ago, the plan is a mechanism just as surely as any machine. Please understand that. See, spirituality is the physics that we don't yet understand. Okay? And one of the things about spirituality, from a metaphysical point of view, so material physics, quantum physics, talking about material things. Spiritual physics is talking about, quote unquote, immaterial things in the way that we understand material. So a plan is a mechanism. When you write a plan, you have built a machine. In creative language, in the language of creation, you just built a vehicle. It's a plan. And that vehicle affects things in creation and in yourself, and yourself as a part of creation. So, set your goal, your plan, visualize. in order to virtualize your goal. So that goes back to the imagination. And that has to do with expectation. But I want you to also understand this. Listen, you already know this, right? I think I had a thought about lemon meringue pie the other day, and my jaws start getting tight, like I was like I was getting that lemon zest in my. It's happening right now. Getting that lemon zest in my mouth. What 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 made that chemical reaction happen in my body? The visualization, the thought of it. The thought of it brought about changes in my biology. Well, that's what happens with belief and expectations and imagination. Your bodily mechanisms say, oh, okay, well, he wants a lemon meringue pie. Oh, he's thinking about lemon meringue pie. Okay, well, let's get ready, right? Okay, well, that's what happens in our body. That's what happens in the creation. It's sort of like, what do you want? What are you aspiring to? Creation is just, it's almost like in our case, creation is kind of like twiddling his thumbs. Like, okay, well, I guess he don't want to do nothing, so let's just hang out. No. Set your goal, plan, visualize in order to virtualize. Because as soon as you begin to think of it, you begin to visualize it, and especially when you plan it, it is actually coming into virtual existence. And then verse 40 tells us what happens next. Behave in alignment with you. It says, nothing happened without behavior. Qur'an says, do they think that they were going to be rewarded for other than their deeds? This is God saying. What do you think? You think all you have to do is just think about something. All you have to do is just imagine it hard enough, long enough, and then it's just going to show up at your door. Get off of that. Get off of that. Let's distract you until you die. Get off of that. Make a plan. Evaluate the plan. If you make the plan based on the powers and the laws of the heavens and the earth, right? So therefore the plan is true. So the plan is not a quote unquote pipe dream. The plan is real on the basis of the context of the rules and the laws of the heavens and the earth. That's like, boom, you want to do this, you got to do that. And a trustworthy plan is that mechanism, is that machinery, is that vehicle through which physically and metaphysically what you are aspiring to and imagining, it's going to arrive by virtue of the action, quote unquote, and interaction between yourself and the plan. All right? And when you behave, then the fruit of his striving will soon be seen. It means you have to behave in alignment with your goal or plan, right? We've already gone through this. The wave of possibilities is the source of the fuel of universal creativity and originality. Without it, the cognitive activity in higher levels will grind to a halt. There would be no novelty feeding it from below. So if you don't believe at the next level and at the next level and at the next level, then it's never going to be realized, because you're going to stop at the level that you stop expecting and stop believing. This ain't going to work. Okay. Everything just stopped. There are some things that you have to do in relationship to obstacles to the worldly plans, activities, etc. There's always going to be something. Life happens, other things happen, and you have to make adjustments. I don't know if we're going to get to some detail on that. I don't know. We'll see how far my comments go here. Oh, okay. Here's another thing. Here's another creation supported social logic, scripture supported social logic. The social logic for what I've been talking about, I want to show it to you also in fundamentals that we embrace as Muslims. All right. So you see there on the left, you have the star, moon, sun. Of course, you should recognize in that Abraham, alayhi salatu wasalam, his vision, star, moon, sun. That star, moon, and sun is a symbol of what God taught Abraham of the powers and the laws in the heavens and the earth, that he might have certitude. So he had the expectations and beliefs rooted in his very being by virtue of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him. He was supremely confident. Yaqeen. He had conviction totally. And that's a sign of where we have to be in terms of whatever it is that we're trying to realize. I mean, do you really believe in yourself in that matter? If you don't really believe in yourself in that matter, that's why it's not moving. It's not going to happen. But if you really believe in yourself in that matter, it's already happening. But how can you be certain, and what is the justification for you believing in yourself in that matter? What do you know about what it is you're trying to do? All right. So you need to get the star knowledge, the moon knowledge, the sun knowledge of whatever it is that you're doing. Whatever. I'm not going to try to go into all the interpretations of all this, but at best, simply, I will put it this way: star is the intuitive, instinctive knowledge. Do you have the nature? Do you have the predisposition for what it is you're talking about? Right. If you don't really have the predisposition, you haven't even gotten the star knowledge of what you're talking about. But if you do have the predisposition, the impulse, the instinct for it, right? Do you have political instincts? If you're thinking about politics, do you have business instincts? If you're talking about business, you're not academic instinct, you're talking about academic achievement, blah, blah, blah. You have to have the instincts for it. If you don't have it, and nobody has told you unsolicited, man, you got some strong political instincts, or you got some strong economic instincts, or you got some strong academic instincts. If nobody's ever told you that in your life, then you probably don't have them. I'm just saying. So, and it's the same way for business. Oh man, you got a nose for business. Maybe somebody told you that sometime, right? Just okay. Let's go with the rest of that. We got to move on. So, but then you move on to the moon, right? So what's the moon? The moon is basically like the philosophy of what it is that you have an instinct for. You found that you had an instinct for it. Okay, now, so what's the philosophy about it? Everything? Listen, everything has a business has a philosophy. Politics, governance has a philosophy. Huh? Academics has a philosophy. Culture has a philosophy, right? And all the dimensions of it have what game are you playing? Remember, aim, game, hierarchy, all that. This is knowledge that you have to have, and then you have to move up the star, moon, sun ladder in order to achieve and arrive at the level of knowledge to have the expectation and beliefs that fit the game you're playing and where you're trying to go, right? So you have the impulse, instincts, then you have the philosophy / ideology for it, and then moving up to the sun. The sun is the science of it. What is the objective science for whatever it is you're trying to do? I don't care. Whatever. I don't know. You want to make vacuum cleaners. I'm just saying anything. Okay. What's the science of vacuum cleaners? Do you know that? Right? Okay. And all of this, of course, fits with the schema that we see in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First squeeze, second squeeze, third squeeze. So the Prophet, squeeze number 1 moved him from level 1 to level 2. Squeeze number 2 moved him from level 2 to level 3. Squeeze number 3 moved him from level 3 to level 4. And so it is. That's how we get to the top. We get to the apex of whatever it is by traversing all of these capacities. And when you think about these squeezes, right? Squeezes mean you have to face the challenges on each level. Squeeze number 1 is usri yusra. Squeeze number 2, usri yusra. Squeeze number 3, usri yusra. Difficulty, relief. Success is a set of problems solved, according to I M Pei, first person singular. You should look that documentary up. It's a good one. But he says success is a set of problems solved. We talk about these NBA games, right? So it's like these coaches. The difference is you got a 7-game possible series, right? Game number 1 is most people say that it's a feeler. I'm feeling them out, right? And then now you go to the film, and then you go to the recap of the game, etc. And you make adjustments. You make the adjustments respecting the nature, because if this guy has been a problem for us in game number 1, then we need to make some adjustments that solves that problem in game number 2. If they give us a new problem in game number 2 that we don't solve, then we're going to lose game number 2, and the rest goes on, right? So who's most successful? The ones that's most successful are the one who solve the problem of their opposition. And that's how it is with us. If you're a chef, you have a certain set of problems for chefs. If you are an academic, you have a certain set of problems as an academic. Blah, blah, blah. The point is you have to be able to solve the problems on the level that you want to move off of. All right. And that's why we go back to the unconscious incompetent, conscious competent, conscious incompetent, conscious competent, unconscious competent. Once you know all of the problems related to the progression that you're trying to make, and I didn't put the model right here, but I want to go back and remind you, you have to find who's the apex performer in the area that you're trying to rise in. Who's the object? Who's the model? Right? So people talk about mentorship, you talk about models, examples, etc. And we have so much access to every and practically anything available that you don't have to live with the person or go knock on their door or call them, get them to talk to you. They're online. They're everywhere, and you can make it real for yourself. All right. So mustaqbal. Well, now we're talking about very here at this point. Mustaqbal is talking about the future. So now what we're talking about is making history. Right at this moment, we're talking about making history. You want to make history? Okay, let me tell you how to make history. Mustaqbal is a noun which means the future. Mim damma sin sukun ta feta ba feta lam. Right? Mustaqbal. Aqbala is the fourth form of the verbal root qabala. This gives us the noun form mustaqbal, which means the future. It means, this is a definition, to give one's attention to something, to dedicate oneself, to apply oneself, to engage in, to take an interest in, to embark upon. Form 4 also engenders indirect cause. You're going to cause something that's going to cause something else, right? And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an says that he hovers between a man and his heart. So this qabala is also an anagram for qalb, qaf, lam, ba. But the main thing is simply to understand that the ultimate decision for what is arrived at, what is achieved, what is accomplished, is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never forget that. You can plan, you can have a perfect plan, just like Jacob and the plans for his sons. It don't all end up by one gate. He did what he was told to do, but Allah had another plan. So always follow what you know, but always recognize it's all insha'Allah, right? So what this Kabbalah tells us is that any human being who wants a good future must give their attention to it. They must dedicate themselves to it. They must apply themselves. They must engage themselves. They must take an interest in what they aspire to. They must embark upon it in the present time with a vision of their future life in mind. Some of you already know that we're talking about what the Imam said. That was the literal definition and translation for behavior of the definition of the future. If you want to create the future, if you want to manifest and bring something about in the future, well, then these are the things that you have to do just by the definition of the Quranic term for future. You have to dedicate yourself to it. You have to apply yourself. You have to engage yourself. You have to increase and enhance and follow your interest in it. And you have to embark upon it in present time in the interest of your vision for the future. Here are two levels of making history. Is that today we made history. In that sense, it means that we will have accomplished something up to that moment that hadn't been accomplished. We made history. First black president, blah, blah, right? Made history. Hadn't been done before. I know there's some teachers, well, we've had about 5 other black presidents with that one drop of blood thing. But we're not going to go into that today. Okay. So made history in as much as we will have accomplished what upon that moment hadn't been accomplished. That's making history. But now we're talking about making history consciously through our own capacity, through our own capability. We will make history in as much as we will have successfully executed our plans. When you put your plans to work, your good plans to work, right? That plan represents your virtual intended future. That's what's on the paper. Your virtual intended future, that mechanism called a plan, there's your future right there. That's the seed right there, right? And you accomplish that, it will be like following the recipe to make a cake. And when you achieve what the plan holds out for you, then you will also have made history. Imam Muhammad, he says, this is the future that we're building. And Allah says, look to the future. Don't value this present life over the future, but look to the future. Let your aim, your object be toward the future. That's the orientation in the Muslim life. That is the Muslim lives with hope for accomplishing the goals that is in front of him. We are always supposed to be going towards something as a goal, as an object to achieve in front of us. That's our sensitivity. That should be our concern. That's the way we live. We don't live just in the present. There are 3 tenses, aren't there? In fact, there are 4. There's the past tense, the present tense, the future tense, and this one that you didn't know about, controlled tense. Well, we want to move in every tense. We want present, we want past, future, and controlled tense. So control tense is when you design a life for yourself, back to that plan, design a life for yourself with an objective in mind, and you marshal everything to complement that and to support that. Man, you're on your own time then. You are not in the past. You're not in the present. When you perceive that way, you are really in the future. But you have stepped ahead of the ordinary concept of future time. You have stepped into controlled time. Alhamdulillah. Imam Muhammad at Elijahville. So, brothers and sisters, not going into this further, but this essentially is going to be the end of it. It is simple. It is so that it's in the doing, right? It is simple. I think I have this one other plate that I can. No, it's not. It's not there and available. So let me duck out before I get wrapped into something I don't want to get wrapped into right now.